Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Here it is. It is the HG Build Fighters Ez-SR kit. Yes, that's right. The kit that has 3 different forms. We'll take a look at all of them in today's review. Let's go ahead and start off with the unboxing. So like I said, and as you guys may be well aware, this kit does have 3 forms that you can build it as, and you can see all of them here on the front. You have 1, 2, 3 different ways you can build this. Not 3 different kits in here. That would be nice. I always thought that it would have been cool if they would have re-released this kit as a 3-pack that you could build all 3. But basically, if you want to build all 3, you'll have to buy 3 of this kit. And obviously, this kit is based off of the Ez-8 HGUC kit, which I have built and reviewed, and I'll show you guys a comparison later on. But some very cool box art there on the front. On the side, you can see this is number 21 in the HG Build Fighters line. And on the bottom of the box, we can take a look at the different versions here. There's the Intruder, the Eliminator, and the Shadow Phantom. Some very edgy names for this, but this is basically like a recon type, has the big radome and this sensor shield there. This is the a heavy artillery type with the missile pod, 180 millimeter cannon, and then the Intruder is basically like the close combat type with these kind of shock shields, and then the beam sabers and the short barrel beam rifle. So yeah, very cool designs. If we go look on the other side, there's what it looks like just front and back, all painted up. It's just all grayscale. Some people may not like the color scheme. I do like it, but I can understand it might be a little bit boring for some people. There is a little bit of information about that, and this came out for originally 1,800 yen, which is not a bad price considering you have a lot of stuff to build in here, and you will have a lot of leftover parts. Obviously, with whichever form you choose to build it as, you'll have leftover parts that might be usable on the Ez-8. I don't recall if they are or not. I would assume they are, but we'll test that out in the review. But here's the manual. We got the box art there on the front. Down here, we got some artwork for the different versions of the mobile suits and the pilots right there. On the back side, just big front and back reference images there of each form and a little bit of information. Of course, this came out before we were getting English in the manual, so it's just all in Japanese there. There's 1-point technique. And this is quite interesting, but it's saying to use, I'm not sure exactly what that is, that just sticker paper or something like that. I don't think that's anything we have included with this. No, it's not. So I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I know a lot of times what people will use for stuff like this is material that's used for nail art. So I don't know what that is exactly. But anyway, you just work that in with a Q-tip, color that in with a highlighter or just a yellow marker or something, whatever it is, just to make it the right color. And then cut carefully along the lines, and there you go, you got a more sparkly version of the sticker. That's kind of interesting there. And then some other kits in the HG Build Fighters and Build Custom lineup there. Our color guide is right here as well. That is also just in Japanese, but obviously just gray, white, and a little bit of a couple of different colors. On the inside here is the customized plan there with the build materials. So ground type mobile suits that are similar in style, fighting style, I suppose. Got the Dom and the Bukyu, but obviously this is based off of the Ez-8. Like I said, there's some more information about the individual weapons and things. The rest of the manual is just going to have our parts list here and then just the construction of it. We do have a couple of color pages here, which looks like just showing how to build each particular version. So this is for the Eliminator here on this side, so showing that head. It's got a different knee part, different shoulder parts, different backpack weapon equipment, and then over here is for the Shadow Phantom version, how to build that. But anyway, we'll take a look at all 3 different forms once we get to the review. Let's go ahead and check out the runners first. So here's a look at the foil sticker sheet. Obviously just a ton of cameras on there. We got some eye stickers, and those are for the radome there on the back, and then a couple little white and gray ones there. Got some polycaps here in gray, PC001, and SB6 for our smaller size beam saber effect parts here in clear pink. Our A1 here in this light gray color is of course from originally the Ez-8 kit, so no new parts in here quite yet, and I imagine a few parts in there probably that we'll end up not using for this kit. Then we do also have a runner A2, which is a copy of this section of the runner right here. Then runner C1 is in a darker gray color, and we do also have runner C2 for a copy of this runner right here. This is for joint parts and weapons parts, hand parts on there. The runner E1 is back to light gray, but now we're getting into some parts that are new specifically for this kit. So this runner is labeled Ez-SR, and you can see there's just kind of 3 sections there of the runner for the different parts. We do also have E2, which is a copy of this section right here. Runner F is back to that darker gray, and once again this is some new parts specifically for the Ez-SR. And the same thing here with runner G1 as some more new parts, but in this case obviously they're in white, and we do also have runner G2 for that part of the runner right there. So that's everything, guys. A lot of gray, but I think it's going to look very cool once we get it all put together, and we'll check out the different forms and all that. So let me go ahead and build this guy up and we'll see how it looks. Alright, so here it is all built up, guys, in the intruder form, and that's what we'll focus on here for the first bit of the video, and then later we'll transform it into the Illuminator and the Shadow Phantom form so you guys can see those as well. But basically very similar, of course, to building just the original HGC EZA. It definitely has that feeling of pretty nice, pretty modern feeling HG, but there's a little bit of hint of that like kind of early 2010s HG feeling of it. So if you guys get what I mean, it's from right in that transition period where Bandai was going from making nice HGs to very nice HGs. And so basically there's a couple of seam lines here and there, but overall a very nice solid kit. Let's go ahead and check it out in detail. So first off, of course, we are going to have some leftover parts from the original EZ8 kit, most of which not going to be all that useful, but for example, like you could make the original shoulders if you preferred those. You have almost all the parts to make the machine gun except for like the part that folds over the top of that there. You have the original knee parts if you preferred to use those. You also have the original cover pieces for the side of the leg if you didn't want to have these new parts added onto there. And you have the original front skirts. And if you did want to make the original feet, you don't have all the pieces to make the original feet here, unfortunately, so you have some of the parts of those, but you do have the full EZ8 head, albeit just all here in gray, but there you go, you got the original EZ8 head if you preferred that. And while we're on the topic, let's take a look at the two kits side by side. Now I definitely really like the improvements added to the Ez-SR here. If you remember my review of the EZ8 kit, one thing that I didn't really like about it is I felt the head looked kind of big, so definitely on this new one they've made the head a little bit smaller, and also these parts added onto the top of the chest kind of help to add like some bulk around the head, whereas this one just kind of has the torso piece and there's nothing really like between the head and the shoulders there. So some nice proportion changes in there that definitely go a long way to just kind of change the overall look of the kit. Whereas if you weren't like really familiar with the designs and you just looked at this at a glance, it doesn't really scream like just a recolored EZ8 by any means, so it definitely does a really good job to re-envision the design. For some accessories here, you could hold the beam sabers in hand. They're just plugged onto this bit here onto the side, and you can point them up, or you can turn that around to point them forward, and then plug your beam saber effect parts into there and have this just as a melee weapon there attached onto the side of the arm, which is pretty cool. But yeah, otherwise you could just pull the beam saber out of there and just hold it in the hand as normally if you wanted to do it like that. So you've got some options there. And a couple of hand options we have here. For the left side we have a holding hand or a closed fist, which is really nice. And for the right side, we have a trigger finger hand and a holding hand for the beam saber there. Then for the weapon, we've got the short barrel beam rifle with a little sticker there for the camera. But of course, you could swap out the barrel to just the original long type or just standard length beam rifle barrel there for that. But for the sake of this review, I'm just going to keep it with the short barrel, as that's kind of what's shown on the box anyway. Then the rest of all this other stuff is just for swapping out to change it into the different forms. Now the great thing about that is that you can make it into 3 different forms, which is cool. And like I said, we'll see those in a moment, but I think the more interesting thing about it is the fact that you could mix and match. If you wanted to make like some parts from one form and some other different parts from a different form, there's a lot of customizability built into this one kit, which is very nice just straight out the box. You have a lot of options as to how you might want to actually put your build together. The one last thing that you can do here with these gauntlets on the arms, you can take this off and reattach this by pulling out this piece on the inside and just kind of rotating it around. It's not really the easiest thing to do. There you go, get that out of there, rotate that around, attach this back onto the forearm, and that's out covering the hand, and it's used for like his shocker gauntlet there on the side of the arm. So that's a pretty cool little thing to be included as well. As for the articulation, it's all going to be pretty standard. The head is on a double ball joint polycap there, so it goes up and down pretty nicely. We have some movement here in the waist, not a ton, but a little bit forward and back bend here. Side to side, yeah, sort of, not really. Rotation there. Around here on the backpack, these side bits can rotate forward and back. This whole section can move up and down, and these side parts can also move individually, and the little tail bit and this tail stabilizer there in the center can also move individually. The back skirt, while we're here, does not move, that's just fixed in place. The side skirts do move up and down. The front skirts can be clipped apart to separate them, or you can just leave them together. Those will move all the way up to there, so you shouldn't have any problem getting your leg up pretty high. The knee is going to be kind of getting in the way, but I guess we move that. bend that. We can give it a pretty nice upper movement and double jointed knee bend there. The hip joint in itself will rotate side to side, and you've also got some rotation there at the top of the hip. You can bring the legs out to the side, and I skipped over the arms, so let's go back up to those. The polycap will rotate to the front there to bring the arm up to the front. You move the shoulder armor up and bring the arm up to about there before it's going to be kind of coming apart on you, so that'd be kind of about the limit of that. Pretty good upward movement there for the arm. Rotation there at the bicep, double joint here at the elbow for a pretty nice full bend. The wrist is just on a ball joint. As you may have noticed, when we bend the knee, this knee armor can move on its own. Doesn't like move naturally with the knee, you have to move it manually, and this is a little white sticker there on the front of that. And speaking of stickers, also should note that aside from like the eyes and the camera stickers, which are obviously stickers, this V-fin, if you guys didn't notice, that's also a couple of white stickers they have to place on there for that V-fin, which is kind of unfortunate. Then going down here, this front bit of ankle armor moves a little bit up and down. This back bit is on a ball joint, but if you try moving around, it's basically just gonna come off. So I mean, that does sort of move around in theory a little bit, but don't really mess with it too much. The toe doesn't point down, but it does point up a little bit for if you're having the foot like so. Otherwise, you can point the foot down. The ankle joint does move pretty far up and down, which is nice, and then side to side, pretty cool as well. Some people may not like these a little bit more kind of elephant looking, sort of weird looking feet, snubby feet, stubby looking feet. I kind of dig them though. And up underneath you don't have any hollow gaps, which is nice, and some nice detail there that'll look cool once that's all painted in. But overall, as you can see, the articulation is quite nice. And I mentioned seam lines before. There's not a ton really, to be honest. You will have some here on the lower leg right there, and then here on the back. You could disguise that as a panel line pretty easily if you have a scriber. Turn that into a panel line and then make like a parallel one going on the other side. Would be pretty simple to do, just to make two lines running down the back of the leg and the front of the leg, just to make parallel lines. I think would be the easiest way to do that. Otherwise, just getting rid of that seam line. Here on the shoulder, you don't really have one. It's kind of covered up by these parts, and this is one of the parts that you will change out when you're changing the form. This part here on the shoulder. This part pulls out of the shoulder there, and this is where you're gonna swap out the different parts for whichever form you're making it as. You'll just plug onto the side of the shoulder here. And I'll just remove the backpack to show you this as well, because it's kind of interesting, this new part that we have here for the back of the torso, so you can plug different types of backpacks into here. So this one just uses the kind of standard Build Fighters style, common type, I guess, backpack attachment point that we're used to seeing on a lot of HG kits now, because they're trying to use like a more universal type. So any of like the Build Fighters option backpacks and stuff should all be able to fit on this pretty easily. And so unsurprisingly, it is without a doubt that I'm going to definitely recommend this kit for y'all. It's a very cool kit, and I think, you know, definitely the best selling point about this is just all the customization that you have with just straight out of the box. So many different options, and as you guys are seeing some of the different options here, this is just a very small portion of some of the different things that you can do with mixing and matching the parts from this. And this is definitely one of those kits that you're probably going to want to buy more than one of. You have a ton of options in there, but I think it's just one that's really great for making a team of 2 or 3, even more if you are so inclined. But definitely the other great thing about this, just aside from the customizability of it, is just the fact that it is a really great looking kit. You may not like the fact that it's all kind of monotone gray. It's a little bit sort of boring, I guess, in the colors, depending on your own personal taste. But design-wise, I think it's a really sharp looking design, and articulation is also quite good. So you can get it in a lot of different poses. Having it either on an action base or just not on an action base, I think it works well either way. Obviously, it's based off the EZ8, which is a ground type Gundam design. So a lot of times, you know, pretty much any kit is going to look cool in an action pose up on an action base, but this is one that does look really nice on the ground as well. So no matter how you end up having it, I think it's going to be a very great looking kit, and one that I'm definitely looking forward to working on some more in the future. I'll have to do a little bit of playing around with it to see exactly how I want to outfit mine in terms of like all the different weaponry options and everything. And I could definitely see myself getting another one of these in the future. So that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for checking it out, and of course thank you to USA Gundam Store for making it possible. If you guys want to check the link to USA Gundam Store down in the video description below, and the coupon code is there for you guys to use as well. Of course, we've got all sorts of different Gunpla and everything there on the site. So big thank you to them as always for making it possible, and thank you guys for liking the video, commenting, subscribing as well if you're so inclined. Really appreciate that support as well, and hope you guys are all having a great day. I'll see y'all next time. Bye guys.